First quarter is done and dusted. And what I want to go over with you today are the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to the Madison, Wisconsin real estate market first quarter of 2026, meaning January through the end of March 2026. And again, we're looking at the Madison and immediately surrounding areas. So we have Madison, Monona, Middleton, Fitchburg, a little bit of Verona, not so much. But anyways, let's get down to the numbers so I can show you exactly what's been going on and you can start to make your own informed decisions. The first number I want to focus on is the number of new listings. Now, the number of new listings started to decline in 2023. Why is that? Because, well, interest rates started to go up and people were already really secure in a 2.5% to 3% mortgage. So why would they go and pay over 6% if they have such an amazing interest rate on their 30-year mortgage? The other thing I should state here is that when we go back to the first normal market prior to the pandemic, which actually would be January through March of 2020, even though 2020 saw the shutdown, the number of new listings was 900. In 2026, it was 580. We can go back to 2025, there were 622. In 2024, there were 576. But you can see we're down on inventory by almost a third. That's really interesting when you go back to 2020 to now. And from what I understand, most people in the United States, this is not Madison specific, but in the United States actually have an interest rate above 5.5% at this point. So why the lack of inventory? Average price in the first quarter of 2026 was $544,000. Year over year, going back to 2024, that goes up by 5.5% every single year. So a total of 11% from 2024 to 2026. But you can see that the prices keep rising because of the supply and demand issue. We don't have as many homes, so we have more competition in this Madison area. Dane County, that might be a little bit different, but I do know that when we see prices increase by 5.5% or more every single year, which has kind of been the case since late 2020 into 2021, when we see prices increase like that, it means that we have a very low supply and a very high demand. First quarter tends to be the slowest quarter when it comes to home sales in Madison, Wisconsin. However, when you see that few sales and you see that average price go up by 5.5% year over year, it means that we are lacking severely in inventory. The next number, if we look year over year after the last 3 years, so 2024, 25, and 26, would be how many homes have sold in the first quarter. This number is somewhat inconsequential because it doesn't vary greatly. It goes anywhere between 330 up to 380. So 330 is how many homes were sold in the first quarter of 2026. That's only important to note because basically with only 580 listings and that many sold in the first quarter, it means that we are still in a seller's market. So a seller's market, again, is when you have inventory that wouldn't last more than, say, 3 or 4 months. If it lasts over that, your absorption rate goes over that 5-month, kind of straddles the 5 to 6 month period, then all of a sudden we go into a buyer's market and we are still nowhere near that in the Madison area. Now on the flip side, I'm going to use this number median wise. So we're going to take the median days on market because across the board over the last 3 years, in the first quarter, it has been 7 days. 7 days on market. Now, if you take the average, it can range anywhere between 29 and 33, which is certainly up from where we were. However, I think that 7 days is more accurate because even though we're starting to see homes sit on the market for a little bit longer, we are still seeing, on average, home selling in less than 30 days. And if the median is 7, that means we still have a really fast-moving market based on what's been happening in the first quarter of 2026. And the final number that I really like to take a look at is the list to sale price ratio. This means we list the home at a certain price and the home then sells for another price. Now, I can remember back in, say, 2021-22, where this is probably anywhere between 106 to 108%, meaning selling 6 to 8% average above list price. And now we're starting to see things calm down. This is not by any means across the board, but on average now we're starting to see homes in the first quarter of 2024, 25, and 26 sell for about 1% on average above list price. So by no means are you getting a deal. Now, I am going to break down other neighborhoods where I'm starting to see that the list to sale price ratio is at 97 to 98% as opposed to 101%. And if you're interested in finding out about where those areas are, I think it might be an opportunity for you, and I'm happy to give you more information on those. Overall, I think the first quarter of 2026 felt a little bit like it was dragging, like we were trying to figure out exactly what was going to happen in 2026. Now, again, second and third quarter are always the strong quarters when it comes to home sales, prices, and things like that. First quarter is always people trying to figure out exactly where pricing is going to be, and we're still seeing a lot of that in the market. I can tell you from a buyer's perspective, I'm taking a lot of people out who are seeing homes and then they're actually either in competition or decide not to write an offer because there is so much competition. And I've been in situations where there have been anywhere between 2 to 10 offers on a home, and then you go to see the sales price and can't believe it, but it's that established pricing. So the people who are listing their homes in the first quarter in neighborhoods that people really want to be in and that are really lovely homes, they're establishing the pricing for the neighborhood for the remainder of the year. They're the ones who are getting 2 to 10 offers. And so that pricing is being established by that home. Now, when we go into the second and third quarter, especially the third quarter, things will start to calm down. But first quarter, what we saw was people just kind of getting a feel. They're getting out there. These are not the same people who are making a calculated decision as to whether it comes to school district, downsizing, things like that. Those people were probably sitting inside because we got a lot of snow in the first quarter. It was really cold. And these were things we had not seen in a few years. And so that first quarter was also a little bit slow because of weather. If you can imagine, we live in Wisconsin. It gets cold. There is snow. We just hadn't seen a lot of that. And so that's one of the reasons that I think that the first quarter felt like it was lagging and that we're going to pick up in the second and third quarter. What I will say is the thing that worried me a bit towards the end of the first quarter would be the interest rates. Because I think that if you start to see 7% interest rates again, whether you're a buyer or a seller, you're probably putting things on pause for a moment. The other thing is the price of goods. So real estate taxes go up, your home insurance goes up, your car insurance goes up. All of these things start to cost more money. And so does this mean that you stay put? Does it mean that you decide that you're going to downsize now that you don't need all this space? Or are you a growing family, or are you growing business? Are you growing so that you need to have more space? Whatever the answer is to that question, I think that there will be plenty of opportunities in the upcoming quarters, second and third specifically. But in the first quarter, we don't see that many people making big life decisions until they know that they can come out in shorts when it's 40 degrees in Madison. That's a thing. If you're relocating to Madison, like once it hits 40 to 45 degrees, people come out in shorts and they think that it's spring and spring has sprung. And then the next day we will get 12 inches of angry, wet snow. That's my take on how the market has shifted from the beginning of the first quarter to towards the end of the first quarter. In the end, Madison, Wisconsin is a beautiful place to live. Whether you're relocating, you're downsizing, you're moving up to that next house, or you're just staying put, I think that knowing the numbers is really helpful so that people get a better understanding of where the market's at, when they want to make a move, and how we can best be of help, whether that's providing you with numbers or maybe it's neighborhood stats or schools, whatever it might be. We're here to try to give you as much information as we can. I hope that you enjoyed listening to these numbers as much as I love researching them so I can tell all the world what's going on with the Madison, Wisconsin real estate. I hope that you subscribe, click like, share this with all of your friends who might be looking to purchase or sell their home in 2026. And until next time, glad you stopped by.